All right. Make sure my phone's turned off. I was sitting in a funeral the other day, and the lady behind me went off, birds chirping and singing, and that's really exciting. All right, I'll call the call meeting to order for the purpose of opening the bids on the timber. Terry, you want to open it, or you want me to open it?
There you go.
All right. We received one bid from Bear Creek Forestry. Michael Nixon, Georgia Registered Forester out of Carrollton, Georgia. Proposal for services.
You said Bear Creek.
Bear Creek.
Boyd, you're supposed to read it out loud.
Well, I'm looking through to see what all is included. There's copies and exhibits in here, and I want to see it.
All right.
Remember? I don't see. Okay. Bear Creek Forestry LLC includes his registration and certifications, employment history, harvest area delineation, timber inventory, timber sale, and the proposed rate table is that Bear Creek Forestry proposes to conduct a timber sale for the Paulding County Airport Authority for the following fees. Per unit or per ton sale will be conducted at a fee schedule of 10% of the total sale proceeds. Lump sum sale will be conducted for a fee of 9% of the total sale proceeds. All activities necessary to prepare the harvest areas for the timber sale and conduct the bid process to determine the buyer of the inventory timber will be completed within 6 months of a notice to proceed. See anything in there?
Why don't you give it to Terry, see if he wants to read anything else? It's pertinent.
Most of it is sample lump sum contracts or sample unit contracts, and letters of reference in the back.
Well, this is probably pertinent. The first step of the harvest management would be to properly delineate areas that will be pine-only harvest areas as opposed to those that will be completely harvested. The areas to be completely harvested will include the acres occupied within 100 feet of the wildlife mitigation fence, as well as those areas within 2,500 feet of the extended runway centerline. Delineation of the separate harvest methodology areas will hasten the inventory process. In areas that will be completely harvested, all merchantable timber will need to be inventoried. The areas where pine only will be harvested, there will be no need to inventory timber not available for harvest, except for those posing a hazard to low-flying aircraft. In addition to identifying the pine only and complete harvest areas, the streamside buffer zones, the 50-foot areas, will need to be identified and delineated. Once again, in the inventory process, only those trees available for harvest will be included in the inventory. The delineation process can be implemented along with the inventory process with the use of handheld computers that allow one to gather GPS data as well as timber inventory data simultaneously. What he's talking about here is the cruise method that he's going to be using. These boundaries will be marked prior to advertising the sale to the buyers with tree marking paint. Harvest boundaries will be marked using 3 horizontal stripes of blue tree marking paint, while the streamside management zone will be marked with 1 vertical stripe of blue tree marking paint. Timber inventory. A timber inventory, parentheses cruise, will be conducted to determine the volume of the timber being sold. The inventory process will consist of taking sample points or plots on a systematic grid over the area to be harvested. At each plot, tree species, product, and height data will be gathered for each merchantable tree on the plot. Once the inventory is complete, the data will be used to produce a stock and stand table that will display the volume in tons for each species and product being sold. Please keep in mind that timber cruising is a sampling process and not 100% accurate. The stock and stand table will be provided to the airport authority as an estimate of the income to be expected from the timber sale, as well as giving potential buyers information regarding the type and volume of timber available for harvest. Timber sale. Once the harvest area delineation and timber inventory have been completed, the timber is ready to be sold. The timber can be sold by either of 2 methods, lump sum or per unit, commonly referred to as per ton. In a lump sum sale, the successful bidder pays for all timber prior to harvest. Once the sale is closed, the buyer then assumes all risk that could occur that might damage or degrade the timber value, i.e. fire, tornado, ice storms, or pine beetle. Depending on the value of the timber, which can only be determined after an inventory, a lump sum sale may limit the number of buyers that would be able to purchase the timber if the value is extremely high. While the per unit sale, or with a per unit sale, each bidder submits prices for each product being sold on a per ton basis. Those prices are then applied to the estimated harvest volumes, stock and stand table, for each product to determine the high bidder. The risk of damage then lie with the landowner until the timber is severed. Standard protocol requires a down payment of a percentage of the estimated gross proceed at the close of the sale. With a per unit sale, once harvesting begins, the buyer sends a weekly settlement to the consultant, forester, with the previous week's load tickets and settlement sheet. The consultant then verifies the accuracy of the settlement and then forwards the proceeds to the landowner. Once the value of timber harvest meets the down payment amount, weekly checks will be written to the landowner for the previous week's stumpage. This continues until the harvest is complete. Enclosed are samples of both per ton and lump sum timber sale contracts. Of course, these will need to be modified to the requirements set forth by the airport authority, such as paths of ingress and egress, along with the harvesting restrictions due to the bat habitat. Bear Creek Forestry proposes to conduct a timber sale for the Paulding County Airport Authority for the following fees. That's what you just read. Per unit or per ton sale will be at a fee schedule of 10% of the total sale proceeds. Lump sum sale will be conducted for a fee simple 9% of the total sale proceeds. All activities necessary to prepare the harvest areas for the timber shall be sell and conduct the bid process to determine the buyer of the inventory timber will be completed within 6 months of a notice to proceed. So as I read that, it says that all marketing, the cruise, the inventory, everything is included in the 10% and 9% fees.
All right, you've heard the bid. It appears to be a qualified bidder. Is there a recommendation on the bid to take to the full committee?
I recommend that we contact this person and, potentially have an interview with him, just sit down with him before we forward it on to the, Paulding County Airport Authority to be voted on.
All right. Is there a second to that?
I would second that.
All right. Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. And it will be handled, it'll be taken, references will be checked, and we'll hold the meeting with him and then ask for the full board's approval if the committee is satisfied after that. Any other business for this special call meeting?
Point of clarification now, all that you read about the delineation of the timber and surveying the timber, does he have that included in his fee?
That's what it says,
That's what-
yeah.
Yeah, because that's one thing we definitely got to have. We got to know exactly how many acres of pine, how many acres of hardwood, where's it located, so on and so forth. So
That's what I just read.
that's
what he
good.
says he's
That's
gonna
good
do.
information,
Yeah.
and that's going to give us some factual information of exactly what we're doing.
Right.
Right now, myself, I really don't know exactly where it is, how many acres of each, and so on and so forth. So this is very beneficial, I think.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank everybody for coming.